Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hello again. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wars, President and CEO of the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today we are joined by Jess Hallings. Jess and her husband Brad are the owners, proprietors, and the visionaries for what will be Brad Hallings American Whiskey Company in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Jess, welcome to Paradise in the Pines.
Thank you so much, Phil. I'm excited to be here.
You're a busy lady. We try to track you down for this podcast and so much, but we understand you and Brad are super busy with this incredible destination distillery, which from a tourism perspective here, we're super excited about. Talk about how this whole thing got started. It's a huge thing and a big onion. We want to kind of peel back the sides here today.
Yeah, well, Phil, it was, I think, 2019. And Brad and I were discussing what we would do when I retired from the Army. And we had long time dreamt of starting a small business together. And around the new year, 2019, we were going to put an offer in on the little beauty shop across from the Growler. I forget its name, where I was going to put a law firm. And then I wanted to stick pencils in my eyes. So we had, we abandoned that plan, and we're really encouraged by a friend of ours named John Tremazzo, who wrote a book called Bourbon and Bullets, to get involved in the whiskey industry. And as you know, I think we've talked about this before. Whiskey and military service has a long-standing relationship, and as whiskey is part of our military tradition to commemorate and honor and toast and celebrate and mourn and all those things. And I've seen my husband up at memorial walls be called to toast a comrade, like many others.
Right.
He's certainly not alone as someone who's selected to do that, and that conveyance of meaning and spirits has just been really special. And so, the idea was born to build a distillery. Mm-hmm. In March of 2019, he sent me to the American Distilling Institute trade show out in Denver. I took a couple of days leave. Told my commander, General Howell, what I was doing, and I went out there for 2 days and went to every single vendor from, labels to bottles to closures to supply chain people, regulatory compliance people, PR people, you name it. Went to every vendor, came home, wrote a 15-page report for Brad. And from there, we hired a firm to come to Southern Pines and help us evaluate what kind of business model would be successful in our area.
And clear, obviously, in the short portion of this podcast, that you and Brad are Army veterans. You served for 29 years active as well as reserve. Brad's still contractor at Fort Bragg. As a former JAG officer, Russian linguist, you're very detail-oriented. So when you got this assignment to go to Denver, this was a pretty serious thing. I mean, did you know at that time this was like, we got to do this, we got to do it the right way?
No, what we knew was at some point you have to stop dreaming and start doing. And so, a couple $1,000 for a trip to Denver as a exploratory mission was no big deal. Right. When we then hired a consulting firm to help us, that was another iterative step, where we thought, we're just not going to know if we can do this unless we dedicate some resources to it. Right. And that's what we did in the summer of 2019.
Army, Fort Bragg, I mean, obviously there's huge ties there. Is that the reason why Southern Pines was the location? Was that the only thought? was that this was the only place you could do this?
It was the only thought because it's our home.
Mm.
Really, it's we're here to stay. Brad has been in the greater Fort Bragg area since I think 1990, and I since 2006. And it's our home, and we love being surrounded by the people in the greater Fort Bragg area, and it was really that simple. We didn't think we didn't even consider anything anywhere else.
When you consider the distillery, talk about location, talk about size. I mean, it's a pretty ambitious facility, and this is just stage one that you're considering. So this is a multi-phase project over a course of years. Talk about the project, how it came about after the initial research and deciding this is what we need to do.
There's a lot of branches and sequels to this story.
Yeah,
but
I bet.
I think the main thing, Phil, is that we wanted to be members of our community. So there's a variety of business models we could have selected. We could have just sourced product with a beautiful label, and a lot of companies do that, and they're very, very successful in doing so. But we wanted to be members of this community. And we also wanted to have a presence as a veteran-owned business. It's very important to us to behave as ambassadors of retired military veterans and all military veterans. And we wanted a really special place. And so we knew we wanted it to be big enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we relied on experts as to what type of facility would meet those goals, really. And so we landed on what we're calling a regional destination distillery. It's about, it'll all told, maybe just short of 16,000 square feet, where we'll have a manufacturing plant and a dedicated blending and bottling area, a storage building to start, a cocktail bar with a lounge associated with it, some porches, real nice place. Small event space and offices.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously this is a huge military community. The breweries, if people don't know, outside of Pinehurst Brewing Company, all the breweries are owned by ex-Army, Special Forces, Green Beret. Micah Neubauer being, I'm sure, was probably an inspiration for you guys.
Sure.
With Southern Pines Brewing Company. How much support did you get from people like Micah that, took the leap and did breweries here in town and decided to keep the business here, be part of this community, and to watch it grow?
Phil, the amount of support we've received to date is staggering. It's humbling. There are times when literally I'm so floored, like tears come to my eyes. Like and this is coming from a combination of sources: local business people, people we bump into everywhere, at Lowe's, you name it, coming up to us. The Chamber of Commerce, of course.
Yeah.
You personally have been a cheerleader for us. And then people throughout the spirits industry in Kentucky, West Virginia, craft distillers all over the country. It's hard to find people who haven't provided the insights they could give to us when we ask them. It's been tremendous.
You don't do a project like this without a tremendous amount of financial support. I was inspired to hear you at the groundbreaking say that you and Brad could have secured a lot of money from people that kind of wanted to own your brand, but you decided to do it the hard way. And maybe that's probably the right way, because you own your own business, you own your own label, you own your own brand. How important it was for you to not give up your identity and basically sell out just to have the funds?
Well, this is a whole nother podcast, Phil. Raising capital for a small business is a whole separate podcast. But generally what we did is this: we put a significant amount of personal savings into the foundation work and planning of this. So we bought the financial modeling. We had a custom bottle developed. We did packaging, labeling. We purchased the parcel in Southern Pines. We went through the zoning process with civil engineers, and hired some engineers out of Kentucky to design the distillery itself. Because we knew we would take on capital, and we wanted to prove up that we could do it, that we had a really sound due diligence, and we knew what we were getting into. And then we did raise capital, but we raised it, we believe, from the right people. And I mean, we're 95% veteran and military family owned right now. If we have to take on additional capital because of inflation, or, God willing, to press the gas later on, that might change. But right now we are a military family, and we're really proud of it.
What's the timeline now? You did the groundbreaking this past fall, U.S. Open coming up in June of 2024. So it sounds like you will be more than ready for when the world comes here for the U.S. Open.
Phil, I hope so.
You hope so.
You have no idea how many times I've said that to all of the contractors involved. Is we got to be open for the Open,
right?
We got to be open to the. So the site work done by Sanford Contractors is complete. The pre-site work, I guess, might be the right way to put it. Morton Buildings out of Morton, Illinois. They're a national metal building company. Very reputable, is now taken over, and Cliff McGee Brick and Concrete, a North Carolina company, is now pouring the foundations. They'll pour, weather permitting, this month, December, and in January. And in February, Morton will bring the building and assemble it.
Wow.
And it should be, I mean, this is fragile, Phil, so it's scary to even say out loud.
Yeah.
But, the envelope of the building should be complete by June. And then the interior upfit will start. And that gets really complicated.
Yeah.
And that's really most likely when we could confront delays. It's a super heavy process piping and electrical job, as you can imagine. So we'll see. We're just going to try to keep it on the tracks.
For those that aren't familiar with the location in Southern Pines, very convenient to Highway 1. If you're familiar with Micah Neubauer's Southern Pines Brewing Company, a couple blocks away. Hamilton Beach is right across the street. So really almost, a drive and a pitching wedge away from Pine Needles Lodge and Golf Club, which Kelly Miller will really like. But right there, that parcel there, like you said, it's 16,000 square feet, but it's a huge footprint there. Like I said, a great location. Was that the only location you had for this, or were there other ones that were into consideration? Because I know Southern Pines, they do things, in Reagan, their regulations and team there do a great job of making sure the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. But was this the ultimate location that you're like, this is it?
When we were sort of in dream phase in 2019, we looked at really every piece of commercial property, both existing building and land in Moore County, to get a sense of the market. And we just kept coming back to this parcel. It's close to downtown. I think we are a quarter mile from the Mid Pines and Pine Needles entrance driveway, off of Midland Road. Just a great location, and we were warned about remodeling for a distillery, the weight that the concrete has to hold for the equipment, drainage, bringing a 18-wheeler in, all these considerations of fixing up an existing facility. And so that Yadkin Road property just kept making sense.
It's called BHAWK, Brad Hauling American Whiskey Company, a metaphor for a tremendous story that Brad thank God, lived through. Can you tell that story?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit, Phil, and then he'll have to come
Okay.
on and tell you the rest.
Okay. That's fair.
But it is the K, the use of the letter K instead of C for the word company, BHAWK, is a nod to the 1993 Battle of Mogadishu that was memorialized in the movie Black Hawk Down. That Brad participated in that battle and served with heroes. And he. I'll say this, Phil. Our brand message is to express gratitude through premium spirits, gratitude for extraordinary service through premium spirits. So we'll be a military branded company, and that foundation for that expression of gratitude is for Brad, the men he served with and fought with, who saved his life, whose lives were lost there, and so that's the foundation of our story of gratitude.
Very powerful. Awesome. And thank you so much for you and your Brad service. It's just amazing. So that story being told, let's talk about the product. We're going to make some whiskey. I didn't understand we're going to make some rye and some vodka as well. But you brought a sample here. Talk about this. You served some of this at the groundbreaking this past fall.
Yes. So one of the cornerstones of our brand, Phil, will be authenticity. And so, our model, not unlike other craft distilleries, is that we will source product while we lay down our own whiskeys. And this is on the aged spirit side. And so in 2020, when we had decided to continue to conduct due diligence on this project, we traveled to distilleries all over the place. But namely Bardstown Bourbon Company, which we have a relationship with the CEO there, Mark Irwin, who was a retired colonel out of Fort Bragg and a friend and colleague of both of ours. And Mark's team let us visit, and with them, with their culinary experts, their team there, Brad tested, gosh, I don't even know how many bourbons and ryes. And so a good bit of our sourced product, starting out while we lay down our own estate product, will be from the Bardstown Bourbon Company. And so we're going to have a little sip before I take off today.
we can certainly pour some. I'm not sure my board would appreciate me drinking on the job, but it does have a nice. I don't know anything about whiskey, to be honest with you, but it has a nice whiskey look. I'm sure it smells like whiskey, tastes like whiskey.
I promise.
Okay, I'll take a small little sip. How about that?
Great, perfect.
But from what I understand too, is obviously you're going to have aged whiskeys. People will be able to have their own personal barrel. Is that true? I've kind of heard a story like if you wanted to have your own personal barrel of aged whiskey, you can have a barrel with your name on it, or is that part of this?
I think we will run a single barrel program. The details still need to be sorted, but rest assured there'll be some interesting experiences that you can have to include a single barrel select for, say, a group of golfers or whoever would come in. And on the clear spirit side, we'll be producing a vodka and gin. And likely a flavored product right away. And the still that we're purchasing for the clear spirits is going to afford us the opportunity to do a similar thing with, say, a group of gin drinkers who are interested in maybe coming in for a day at the distillery and creating a product, with certain botanicals in it.
Wow.
So it should be pretty cool. It should be pretty cool for both the clear spirits drinkers and the whiskey drinkers.
Aside from that, will you have tours available
We will.
for the facility? Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. And then also there'll be some food. Talk about the food concept culinary that will be offered there.
Yep. So we're still building this out, and you know, frankly, this is one of the scarier parts of the project because people have strong feelings on whether you should serve food and whether it's a good idea. But Brad and I have long enjoyed, trips to the Napa Valley, and are really taking our inspiration from some of our experiences there, where you had a culinary element, with a tasting, and we couldn't let go of that. So
We have to be able to cleanse the palate.
that's right. That's right. So it's important that we need to under promise and over deliver here. We're going to start out slow. It's going to be small, probably tasting menu at first until we get our feet up under us. But we're working with Cisco up in Selma, North Carolina. They've been absolutely wonderful to us. We've been up there twice to their test kitchens to work through how we're gonna do this. So, I would say that we will, likely have some tasting plates that will have sweet notes, some tasting plates that'll have savory notes, and then just a handful of good things to put in your belly when you come. It's also safer. We like that, the idea of just having something available for people to eat when they come in to drink spirits. So, and then there's an opportunity, I think, really to change and grow depending on what the clientele likes.
You talk about different phases of this project. So obviously you want to get it off the ground, get your whiskey operation going. If you had culinary, that's great. But talk about the long range vision, say 5-10 years from now. What do you hope that BHAWK is going to be?
Well, we hope that we're running that 12-inch column still from Vendome 24 hours a day. We've got, I think, 5 rick houses we want to build on that site that are part of our approved site plan. And so, that would just be a really, really wonderful place to be. There's along the journey though, Phil, building that space to support civic and charitable organizations in the community will be a really cool part of the journey both Brad and I are looking forward to. But yeah, we're hoping to fill out all those rick houses someday. And right now, frankly, Phil, it seems totally daunting.
Yeah, I imagine. And as big as that facility is, I mean, obviously you're going to be a major employer in Moore County. How many people do you hope to employ, and what's going to take to get that off the ground?
Well, interesting. I think we'll probably start out with maybe 10 full-time folks, and we'll have a lineup of part-time for the experiences and on the hospitality side. Maybe we'll go up to 30. And I think thinking about beyond that frightens me.
Right.
Like it's interesting. Being a founder of a startup and the thought processes and where you need to direct your energy to, and building a building like this in 2022 and 2023 is sometimes seems absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we take time to sort of do that over the horizon dreaming, but we need to just get that thing up. We need to get that building up,
We've talked about the deep relationship with the military. When you go to Rail House, let's say, when you walk in the door, you see that tribute to the military and those that have fallen. Will there be something as tangible as that when you come into BHAWK that you'll recognize this honors the military, aside from the theme and the devotion that you guys have to the mission of what this is going to be? Will there be some tangible things that people will be able to see and go, wow, this is really intense. This is really, this is really a cool tribute to the military?
Yes and no. So, the direct answer is yes. And as I mentioned at the groundbreaking ceremony, proudly displayed will be some kind of sign or plaque that indicates that this distillery is dedicated to veterans of the armed forces of the United States, their families, and the citizens and communities who support them. That will be proudly displayed. There will be other elements throughout the distillery, but it's also very important for us to not exclude private citizens. So it's our intention to really strike a balance between, I don't know if memorabilia is the right word or not. It's the one that's coming to me right now. But to strike a balance to send that message of gratitude for service, but also know that we're two people and a business that intends to wrap its arms around private citizens who are going to take the time out of their day and come see us.
Certainly, Linda, you mentioned Linda from the Chamber and the support that you get from that organization, from her and her team. And I'm sure she goes to a lot more ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings than I do, because that's part of what they do. But I was blown away at the day of your groundbreaking. There were like a couple hundred people there. I mean, congressmen from the United States, state senators. I guess they like to drink because they were there in force. And it was really inspiring to see. What did that mean to you and Brad that, we talked about the support you get from the military, but from your legislators, from your congressmen, senators, it's pretty cool.
Phil, it was unbelievable. Like, I don't even remember it. It was like a wedding day where the whole thing gets blurry, afterwards.
Well, you were emotional from all the tears that day.
I know. And I tried to hug every single person who showed up. But we were just floored. Brad kept saying, "Is this normal? How many people come to these things?" And we were both...
And walking through the mud to get
I know. We just thought it was cool. We were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And we were kind of told, like, hey, from other business owners, don't let milestones pass. So we thought, okay, well, we'll do this. There'll be 20 people there. At least the community will know we're in the fight and we're coming. And boy, did we achieved that objective and then some. It was wonderful.
It was awesome. And again, there were samples there, but you also have some merchandise, some swag that you guys had out there, which seemed to be making pretty brisk sales. So you guys got off to a good start there. I have one of those hats. I've got a T-shirt that I wear when I work out, and I've been called out in my own backyard wearing the hat and walking my dog from somebody who was playing golf in Whispering Pines. But yeah, it's talk about before we did this podcast, we talked about you got a microsite. And people can go to. So it'd be good to get some people in tune to your newsletter and updates on a periodic basis you'll be providing.
Yes, sir. So by the end of the week, we're just going to have a landing page, one simple page go up. It'll be at hallingwhiskey.com, HALLING, hallingwhiskey.com. There we'll have a newsletter sign up button there, and where Brad and I will personally keep people posted on the build progress. And eventually, I think it'll be the place where that we use to prioritize communications on the opening and any pre-sales we might do and all that is that newsletter. And then in early spring, we will add the shop to the site.
Yeah.
And continue to build it out up until opening.
And you can see the artist rendering of what that's going to be, and American flag probably displayed, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, I can't wait till a year from now to be able to see this. It will get done before the U.S. Open. I have all the faith in you and Brad. We really, I don't know how much I can thank you for your service, your dedication to the community and to this project. It is going to be a tremendous addition to this Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen area. From a tourism perspective, we will promote it, no doubt about it. It's going to bring a lot of people here. An amphitheater down the road, that would be kind of cool too. And but again, we thank you for your time, your efforts, whatever we can do with the CVB. We'd love to be a part of that.
We thank you personally for your support, Phil, and both Brad and I hope to make Southern Pines, Moore County, and Fort Bragg proud.
And I know Brad's busy, and we'll get him on another podcast. We'll do another update. But in the meantime, we thank you for your time. And if you want to learn more about the destination, you can go to homeofgolf.com to watch this vodcast. Sign up on our YouTube channel at Home of American Golf. And also, if you want to listen to this podcast and go to a podcatcher, be sure to sign up and like and follow Paradise in the Pines. Thank you, Jess, for being here today. And thank you for being on another edition of Paradise in the Pines. Cheers. It's good.
My answer's too long.